Dear students, today we are going to talk about a very important topic in cardiovascular pharmacology. The topic is drugs used in heart failure. So let's start. First of all, we want to know about the Frank Starling's law. The law states that the more the stretch on the ventricles, the more it will contract within the physiological limits. What does it mean? That suppose these are your ventricles, okay? That means that if you stretch the ventricles more, okay, so you are stretching these things more, pulling these ventricles outward, then these ventricles will contract more. That means after the pulling, the inward pull will be more. The more the outward pull, the more the inward pull, right? So this is the Frank Starling's law. So it means the more the ventricular filling, that is end diastolic volume is, the more it will eject. That means stroke volume will be. The contractility will increase, therefore there will be an increase in cardiac output. That means these are your ventricles. If the ventricle is filled like this, moderately filled, okay, so there will be a moderate stretch, a moderate contraction will be here. Okay, after the stretch there will be a moderate contraction. But when the stretch is more, suppose the ventricles are overfilled like this, ventricles are overfilled, more blood remaining here after diastole, so what will happen? The stretch is more here, so the inward pull will be more, okay, the contraction will be more, the cardiac output will be more. This is the Frank Starling's law. Now let's look at the role of sympathetic nervous system on a failing heart, not on a normal heart but on a failing heart. So on a failing heart has a decreased cardiac output, okay. So this is sensed by the carotid sinus receptors and sends signals to the central nervous system. From the vasomotor centers, sympathetic outflow occurs, which lead to, that will increase the heart rate and that will increase the contractility and stroke volume. So in the short run it is beneficial for the heart. Why? Because it maintains the cardiac output. In a failing heart the cardiac output is low, decreased, right? So the sympathetic nervous system activation will tend to increase the cardiac output towards the normal limit, okay. But in the long run this is harmful. Why? Because there is arterioconstriction that will increase the total peripheral resistance and increase afterload, and there will be venoconstriction that will lead to increased venous return, therefore increased end diastolic volume and therefore increased preload. So a failing heart has decreased contractility, so increased preload and increased afterload will make the heart more weak, okay. So see that increased preload, increased end diastolic volume, a failing heart cannot eject the extra amount of blood, so blood is retained within the ventricles, heart becomes dilated and the diameter of the ventricles increases and the heart becomes globular. So in a chronic heart failure patient, okay, chronic heart failure patient, the heart becomes globular like this. Now the role of renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Renal hypoperfusion will lead to release of renin, okay, and this renin will convert the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, and angiotensin converting enzyme will convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Now let's look at the functions of angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 will cause arterioconstriction, thereby it will increase the total peripheral resistance aldosterone release, which will increase sodium and water retention, that will increase the venous return and ultimately in diastolic volume and increase the preload. Now, cardiac remodeling. What is cardiac remodeling? You will hear this thing many times in relation to heart failure. Now, what is cardiac remodeling? If angiotensin 2 and aldosterone levels remain chronically high, okay, so they work as growth factors. Now see that angiotensin 2 will cause myocardial hypertrophy. It will lead to myocardial hypertrophy, and myocardial cells will start producing connective tissue abnormally. And aldosterone, this will lead to fibrosis in the heart. So these will lead to further progressive failure of the heart. Heart is undergoing abnormal structural and morphological changes due to excessive stimulation of the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and this phenomenon is called cardiac remodeling. So this phenomenon is called cardiac remodeling. Now let's look at the basic pathology in congestive cardiac failure. Number 1 is weak myocardium, so decreased contractility. Number 2, sympathetic nervous system, that will lead to increased preload and afterload, and renin angiotensin aldosterone system, that will also increase preload and afterload. Now let's look at the drugs which are used in the treatment of congestive cardiac failure. Number 1, ACE inhibitors or ARBs. They dilate both arterioles and veins. Diuretics, they prevent retention of salt and water. Digitalis, these are positive inotropic agents, increase the force of contraction. Beta blockers, and there are some direct vasodilators which dilate the blood vessels directly. Okay, dilate the blood vessels. Here the arteriole dilators will decrease the afterload, venodilators will decrease preload, and positive inotropic drugs will increase myocardial contractility. Now come to the role of ACE inhibitors in heart failure. ACE inhibitors decrease the angiotensin 2 level and increase the bradykinin level. Okay, so decreased angiotensin level, that will lead to decreased preload, as we have mentioned earlier, that will decrease preload by venodilation and by inhibiting aldosterone action. They will decrease afterload by arteriolodilation. They will decrease the sympathetic overactivity, that will lead to vasodilation, and eventually there is reduced stress on the heart. All these procedures, all these actions will lead to reduced stress on the heart. And increased bradykinin levels, that will lead to vasodilation. That means venodilation and arteriolodilation, that will lead to decreased preload and afterload, and ultimately less stress on the heart. And prolonged use of ACE inhibitors, you are continuously giving the drug to a heart failure patient, that will prevent cardiac remodeling. And ACE inhibitors decrease the mortality and morbidity in patients with congestive cardiac failure by decreasing the preload and afterload, decreasing cardiac remodeling, decreasing the chance of myocardial infarction, chance of arrhythmias, and decreasing the chance of stroke. Okay, and an important point to remember, that ACE inhibitors work well with low ejection fraction, usually less than 35% or 30%. Okay, now come to the beta blockers. We also use beta blockers in congestive cardiac failure. In congestive cardiac failure patients, there is overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system. In the long run, it will lead to cardiac remodeling and increased heart rate. Okay, the overactivity of sympathetic nervous system will lead to increased heart rate, which is troublesome for the heart failure patients. Commonly used beta blockers in heart failure. This is the most commonly used drug, carvedilol. Although metoprolol can be used, and it is used as well, but carvedilol is the most important drug in relation to heart failure patients. Now carvedilol blocks beta 1 receptors, beta 2 receptors, and alpha 1 receptors. So this drug is an alpha and a non-selective beta blocker. Mechanism of carvedilol action. Let's look at the mechanism of action. Alpha blocking action that leads to vasodilation, so there is decreased preload and afterload, and beta 1 blocking action will lead to decreased heart rate and renin release from the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So these drugs are helpful in heart failure patients. But you have to remember one thing, that is beta blockers should not be given in acute severe intractable congestive cardiac failure due to their negative inotropic action. Okay, so the heart muscle is already weak, the force of contraction is already decreased, and on top of that you are giving beta blockers that will reduce the force of contraction more. For that reason, in case of acute severe heart failure, we do not give beta blockers. We only consider beta blockers in patients who are stable, okay, who are stable to counteract the sympathetic overactivity. Let's come to diuretics. Diuretics are very important group of drugs in heart failure patients. So there are a few types of diuretics like loop diuretics, and these diuretics cause heavy diuresis, can work in low GFR, and these drugs are suitable for severe heart failure patients with very severe symptoms. Okay, and thiazide diuretics cause mild to moderate diuresis. And they cannot work in low GFR, and these drugs are suitable for patients with milder problems. And we can use spironolactone as well. Now let's look at the mechanism of loop diuretics and thiazide diuretics. These diuretics cause salt and water loss from the body, so there is decreased blood volume, decreased venous return, decreased end-diastolic volume, and decreased preload. Also they cause direct vasodilation. So direct vasodilation, they are causing venodilation and arteriolodilation. For that reason, they are decreasing the venous return and decreasing total peripheral resistance. Thereby they are decreasing preload and decreasing afterload. Now let's look at the mechanism of spironolactone. How spironolactone acts? It has a different mechanism of action. That is, spironolactone is an aldosterone receptor antagonist. Okay, so the function of aldosterone is retention of sodium and water through the kidneys. Okay, so if you block the aldosterone, then sodium and water reabsorption will be prevented, and thereby there will be increased loss of sodium and water, which will lead to decreased blood volume, decreased venous return, and decreased preload. So aldosterone mediated hypokalemia is also prevented. Aldosterone causes hypokalemia, so aldosterone mediated hypokalemia will be prevented. And high levels of aldosterone, this is very important, that high levels of aldosterone stimulate myocardial remodeling, so that will also cause prevention of remodeling. So spironolactone has important functions here, that it is decreasing the preload, it is preventing hypokalemia, because if you give furosemide or thiazides, those drugs will cause hypokalemia, and if you give this drug, that means spironolactone, that it will prevent the hypokalemia and it will prevent cardiac remodeling. So it has very beneficial effects. Now let's come to direct vasodilators. Sometimes we can use direct vasodilators like venodilators, isosorbide dinitrate, and arterial dilators like hydralazine. If the patient is intolerant to ACE inhibitors or beta blockers, then the combination of isosorbide dinitrate and hydralazine can be used.